Hello and welcome. If you're just starting out on your watercolour journey or your New Year's resolution is all about learning how to paint, then this video is for you. Today I'm reviewing the Mei Liang watercolour set from a beginner's point of view. I'm going to start out by swatching out all those colours so we can get to know them, see how they behave on the paper, how they mix, what they look like when they dry. But that is just the theory, so I'm going to put them into practice in this sketchbook exercise so we can see what they're like in real life. My name's Liz Chaderton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire. Every week I share tips and tricks that I wish I'd known about when I started, and I love to review art materials. In the interests of transparency, I was sent these watercolours for free, but this video isn't sponsored, so everything I say, good and bad, are really my opinions. So by the end of this video, you should know whether this set is a good place to start your watercolour journey, what its pros are and what its limitations are, and to see whether it's worth your money as a beginner. What attracted me to the paints in the first place is that they're full pans. You do get a lot of paint for your money. And can you see it's got double-sized pans for your 3 primaries, and this is a Viridian, which is always a good mixing colour. So I reckon this paint set will encourage you to paint lots and to practice your mixing. So let's start out by swatching them and seeing how they actually behave. I've got a little watercolour journal that Lightwish very kindly sent to me as well, so I can swatch things out in here. Mei Liang is the student version of Paul Rubens watercolour, and Paul Rubens and Mei Liang are the brand names from Lightwish. So they're all connected. Lightwish is a parent company, and then this is the more budget-friendly student version. Just because it's student does not mean it should be poor quality. It just means it's more cost conscious. Comes in a cardboard box, which all looks very neat, but I wonder how durable that is. And then when we open it up, we've got this sort of plastic cover to reveal all our lovely paints. Now that plastic cover do not throw away, and if anything I would stick it on or laminate it or save it in some way. I'm going to find some way of taping that inside the lid, and why it's important is it's obviously got the names of the colours. Do excuse my hands, by the way, I have been experimenting with some gold paint. Anyway, it's got the name of the colours. It has the pigment names. If you're new to watercolour, you won't know what those are, but these are little symbols. P stands for pigment, in this case Y stands for yellow, 3 is the number. Or for example, there's medium yellow, P, pigment, Y, yellow, 74. And it lets you compare colours right across different ranges because everyone uses these pigments. And you can see if there's 1 pigment in there or 2, a specific one you particularly like. Star rating is about colour fastness. So will this fade in light? Let's have a quick look. 333, 333. Oh, there's a 2, 333, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. So all of them are 3s except for those 2s. That's important because you don't want to paint your masterpiece, put it on the wall and see it disappear as it's exposed to sunlight. The other symbol, really important to know, is that little circle. It's not filled in, it means it's transparent. Let's find one that's fully filled in, like this ivory black, means it's opaque. This is relative for watercolour because all watercolours are pretty transparent, but it just means this is more opaque than that. Then if you see these 2, so it's an unfilled in circle with a line across, that means it's semi-transparent, and then it's a half-filled circle, means semi-opaque. So they've got a 4 range from the most transparent, semi-transparent, semi-opaque to opaque. We've got our paints. They look yummy. We have 4 double-sized ones, and then these are what's called full-size pans. You just compare it with, say, this one. You can see they are twice the size of these normal pans. These are called half pans. They all come out. So say you wanted to rearrange things, you absolutely can. One thing this hasn't got, of course, is any mixing space. So you are going to need a mixing palette. A lot of tins come with mixing space, so it's all included there. The mixing palette you want is going to be up to personal preference. I like these daisy wheels, but you might get a plastic one, you might get a ceramic one, you can get square ones, but if you're just starting out, grab a ceramic white plate and that will do you fine. This little watercolour journal is cotton paper and it's hot press, so that means it's smooth. 300 grams, that's the weight of the paper, which is in imperial measurement £140. I would always swatch your colours out. Look, we've got that chart, but I bet when we try them on paper they're going to look totally different colours. And when you look in the palette, they always look different too. So always try them out. And before you try them, I would get a little spray bottle full of clean water and just give your watercolours a little spritz, because then what happens is that the water starts to soak in and just loosens up that paint and makes it far easier to use. When I'm trying out colours, what I'm looking for is how easily the paint just releases from the pan. You know, do I have to scrub around and sort of scrape it out, or does it just jump onto my brush? I am looking to see how bright the colours are on the paper or how clear they are. I'm looking to see whether as they dry, do they get paler? Because watercolour usually dries about 15% lighter than when it's wet. Now, some dry considerably lighter, and that can be really annoying because you've painted a lovely vibrant picture and it all sort of disappears. You might wonder why I've put this thick black line across there, and that is so I can judge the opacity. Can I see the paint on top of that line, or does the line show through the paint really well? Because watercolour is traditionally, oh, that's nice, that deep yellow, isn't it? That's like egg yolks. Watercolour is a transparent medium. We really value the transparency, so it's useful to know how transparent your pigments are. As I'm swatching out here, I'm just comparing some of the colours. So for example, in our big brilliant red, how does that compare with vermilion? And you can see this is quite a lot more orange than that red. Now that's useful to know because the temperature, that's what we call it, the temperature of our colours is important. Is it an orangey red? Is it like fire? Or is it a cooler red in that it's a little bit more purpley or a little bit more blue in it? Crimson's very nice, isn't it? Now we can't judge some of these things until they're dry. Oh, I love that magenta. Look at that. Isn't that a nice colour? Prussian blue is one of my favourite colours. I find it very strong. It's a sort of slightly greeny blue, dark greeny blue. So what I might also be looking at as I do this is how creamy do they feel? Do they feel gritty at all? Ah, that's interesting. That cerulean looks very opaque. And you see how it's slightly blurring the black line. And again, let's just think about what I was saying about temperature. If I look at the cerulean, it is cooler. It's slightly icier. You know, that might be the colour of a blue sky in winter, whereas cobalt is a lot warmer, might be the colour of a blue sky in summer. That's a very sort of spring leaf green. And for me, I would always prefer, I think, the sap green to the green light. Just see how the olive green is. Oh, that's nice. That is a green that you might find in nature. Really unlikely to find anything of that green light. So I'm a big fan of yellow ochre. That's nice. And again, that's looking like that's quite opaque. The other colour I absolutely adore is Burnt Sienna. And that Burnt Sienna, might expect it to be a little rustier than that in its sort of colour. So that was Burnt Umber, and then this is Van Dyke Brown. So you can see that's a sort of warmer, slightly lighter brown, and then that's a sort of more neutral, darker brown. Then we have Payne's Grey, which is usually, and in this case, yeah, a very bluey grey. And then finally we've got Ivory Black. What you'll notice, no white. So again, if you're quite new to watercolour, you might think, oh, how do I get my colours lighter? So in watercolour, the white of the paper is our white paint. We leave the paper untouched if we want a white area. If we want to lighten our paints, we add more water. And if we want to darken or intensify them, we add more pigment. So what do we think of these? And I'm just going to show you their coloured swatches against our swatches, just so you can see why it's so important you try them out. So I don't think there was a huge colour shift. The colours look very bright and clear, not too chalky on the surface. The only one that looks a little bit sort of opaque and heavy to me is that cerulean. And let's look here. They actually call it semi-transparent, which really surprises me. It can be hard to tell, but you just need to sort of look closely. You see, I would say the ochre is pretty opaque because I can definitely see it sitting on top of that line. I don't necessarily believe what they say. This is a great indication, but make your own judgment. Standout colours, I really like that deep yellow. That's a lovely yellow. And I do like magenta, but that does seem to have had a bit of a colour shift. Like the olive, Burnt Sienna wouldn't be my favourite. Swatching things out is one thing, of course using them in painting is another, so why don't we give them a little go? What I've done is use some washi tape left over from Christmas, and I've taped off the edges because having a clean border sometimes makes things look just a bit crisper. And then I've taped off random shapes through it. I actually had to cut it in half because it needed to be a bit narrower given the size of the book. And this is just for playing. Fill in some of the gaps. Let's just use those colours. So that was the deep yellow, and then I'm going to drop in some of that magenta that I rather liked and see how it moves around on the surface, and I can wiggle it and see whether it's lively or static. I've got some of that magenta on my brush. I can put that down and then spread it out, and you can see it goes from light to dark. That's rather pretty. Let's use some of that yellow ochre and we'll spread that out and let that move through the water. I like that olive green, didn't I? So let's put in some dots of olive green, see whether it moves or sits there, or just make patterns. This is not anything too heavy or serious. We are playing because the ability to play is such a good thing. Grab that purple. Maybe let's try some black and get it going from purple to black. That was the ivory black. Put some over here. Iridium's a funny old colour. You'd never see that green in nature, but it's a good mixing colour. And if I put some of that lemon yellow in, put some little stripes there. Now let's peel off the tape and see what we've got. there you go. Doesn't it make a difference once you get the tape off? And do you see what I mean about having those nice crisp edges? If you're doing this in January, what you could do is actually write your New Year's resolutions through here and turn this into a little art therapy page as well. Well, would I recommend this set? It is very affordable. It has got some lovely colours. Look at how that deep yellow and magenta just work together. It's not the liveliest on the surface that I've ever seen, but if you're on a limited budget and you want to practice lots, these are full pans and it's very affordable. It would certainly get you going, and my recommendation is always that you spend more money on the paper than you do on the paint.